Kickoff countdown, round two here in the Lawrence County SportsNet, powered by LCAP. Our daily get together here as we get ready for the 2025 season, delivered by Penn Ohio Bottled Water. Give them a call and make sure you talk about their custom label options with the Penn Ohio Bottled Water Company. Counting down top players, we talked about the quarterbacks yesterday. Let's jump up to the running backs. And while quarterbacks, Eric, only half of the teams are returning quarterbacks from last year, complete opposite of the running back position. 7 of the 8 teams have starters or players who had very, very significant time all coming back here for this 2025 campaign. And, it really doesn't surprise us. I mean, most of the teams in the area are run-centric first. All the coaches talk about establishing the run as the get-together for the very least. But I'm really encouraged by not only teams bringing back consistent ball carriers, but even multiple ball carriers and splitting the load. Well, I think we're going to be talking about that here a lot as we break down some of the top running backs coming back in Lawrence County.
Yeah, I mean, there's one name at the top of the list, obviously, that we're not going to see this year, but there's plenty of talent and plenty of potential for 1,000-yard campaigns. And we were just talking a little bit off air about who's some of these schools have as far as depth goes. There's some holes to fill. There's one big one that needs filled at Elwood City. We know that, but if we know anything about that program, they'll start building from the ground up and then hopefully get back on track. But a lot of talent, just like there is with the quarterback position, but a lot of talent at the running back position. And I think our top five, we've nailed the five that we think are the best, and I think there's 2 or 3 in there that could have potentially big seasons that have kind of been budding for the last couple seasons.
So let's get right into it here with our top 5 countdown. We're going to start going to the U. Gianni Million, sophomore last year, kind of came onto the scene. He was definitely the number 2 running back option behind obviously what Maddox Thompson did last year. Now it's going to probably be Gianni Million's backfield. And I'll tell you what, the little guy last year, when you watch the games, it didn't feel like much of anything, but then you'd look at the stat line, he'd be close to 100 yards. Finished with 82 carries for 582 yards and 4 touchdowns last year for the Scotties. And again, we imagine that Coach Nee's offense is going to be centered around establishing a run game with multiple factors in it. But I think Gianni Million is going to be one of the top guys to take a look at.
Yeah, really, really unsettled at the quarterback spot right now for Union, and that's going to be their big question mark. So they're going to do what they did last year, and that's rely on the run game. And it was effective last year in games. I mean, they were right in the game with Mohawk. They were right in several games, and then just couldn't put it together for 4 full quarters till the end of the year when they made their little run. But I think that this is a prime position for Johnny Million to step up, show his worth, and continue that strong running game that Union had last season. I think the one thing Union's really going to have to fight this year too is their offensive line depth. It's not a very big roster. It's not a very big school. We know that. But I think last year too, some of the depth was a little bit of an issue last year, and they still had a strong running game. And he figures to be at the head of the table when it comes to that this year too.
Yeah, and again, I think you might see that old West A style of offense that Coach Needball, of course, worked under Coach Palco. Lots of guys behind center, direct snaps, all sorts of stuff that you could see him factoring in for sure. But won't say a million carries, but I'm sure he'll get well over 100 as the leading ball carrier probably this year for Union. Moving up to number 4, we're going to stay there on the border and head up to Mohawk and talk about Cash Stratton a little bit. He kind of flew under the radar for a majority of the season, but came on strong late, especially in that playoff win against Keystone Oaks. And that game alone, Eric, 19 carries for $161 and 3 touchdowns for Cash Stratton in that contest. He's, again, a guy who I think is going to move in. He was the number 2 option behind Sam List, kind of became a 1A, 1B late in the year. Now it's his backfield, him and Bobby Fadden probably running that zone read a heck of a lot here this year.
And he's been showing a lot of promise here the last couple of years too. I mean, he cracked the depth chart really as a freshman too, and a lot of coaches were high on him as a freshman. Mohawk has been very good at running the football, and I think that that's kind of gone unnoticed, given that they had Jay Rona and then Fadden last year, and like so much big play potential with the quarterback and wide receivers. But this has now become a running team. You're right, and this is his time. He takes the biggest leap, I think, this year. Just under 500 last year, averaged almost 6 yards a carry. for the season, which was massive for that team. They're going to need that type of production again. And I think they have a sneaky good offensive line at Mohawk. And I'll save the hot take on Mohawk for when we do our predictions in our weekly show the first time this year. But I do think that Cash Stratton's going to take the biggest leap, and I think he'll push 1,000 yards. He is going to be one of the top 2 or 3 rushers I believe we have in the area.
And I do think, along with the fact of that sneaky good line, honestly, the number of linemen that they had lost from the previous year, I was not convinced Mohawk was going to be a effective running team last year. I know better than to bet against Coach McCutcheon, but here we are. A year later, it's also going to be a fact of they're going to have another young guy behind Cash Stratton that's going to, take some of the load off them too, and that's going to be really key. And I think you'll see that as we talk about the rest of our top 5 here, because having that 1-2 punch is going to be very, very important. And let's talk about that here with number 3 and Anthony Aiken for Neshannock. Again, a 3-year starter, one of the fastest guys you're going to see out on the football field this year. But his versatility, first and foremost, to allow him to be not only the running back, but they can split him out as a slot receiver if necessary. I believe he threw a touchdown pass last year as well, did Aiken. But you look at, when he went down with an injury, Justin Edworthy came in. He ran very well. They split time a little bit down the stretch. That just, again, saved a little wear and tear. Aiken still with 140 carries on the year, just shy of 1,000 yards. I think he's probably a guy you wouldn't be surprised to see over that millennium mark this year going into his senior year.
No, I think he's going to push 1,500 or 1,600 total. I think his ability to catch the ball too is going to be a big factor for this offense. And you're going to see, I'm not sure you're going to see one ball dominant receiver for that Neshannock team, but I think you're going to see him share the wealth. And I think he's going to get enough touches running the football. And I think he's going to be a good fantasy player. Let's put it that way. I think you want him on your fantasy team as like a flex or as the number 1 running back. And I think his ability to catch the ball is going to be a big factor this year too.
We'll get a couple other honorable mentions here as we wrap up this countdown. Gianni Million, number 3, Cash Stratton, Million, number 5, Stratton, number 4, Anthony Aiken there at number 3. Number 2, we're going to go with a number 2 option. Number 22, Jamie Miller of Wilmington. That ground and pound offense, Coach Fillion running it so effectively last year. And I mean, like he has basically his entire time there, not only as a coach, but as a assistant before that under Coach Varelli. By the way, shout out Coach Terry Varelli Field, as it's officially been named now, up at Wilmington. But when you have your number 2 running back in Jamie Miller, 131 carries, 836 yards, 7 touchdowns. That's your number 2 option. That says a lot. And spoiler alert, let's talk about number 1 right while we're at it. It's Chase Mitchelltree, 150 carries. So just a 21 carry discrepancy between Mitchelltree and Miller. Mitchelltree over 1,000 yards last year as a sophomore and 16 touchdowns. Those two, along with Michael Mastretta, who's the third option, you can't focus on one because the other one is who will step up if you focus too much on one of the other guys.
Mitchelltree and Miller averaged almost 14 yards a carry combined. And then you factor in Mastretta, who was 10 yards a carry last year too. So every time those guys go 1-2 on first or second down, they're picking up another first down. You run the football in this state, you run the football in that pocket of the state where the weather gets nasty. They still have grass fields, a bunch of grass fields up there. You're going to win football games, plain and simple. They are, again, a heavy favorite to win District 10, I think. And I think that team makes a push to get to Cumberland Valley to play for a state title. Nobody in our area can run the ball like them. Nobody wants to run the ball like them. Nobody imposes their will on the offensive line like Wilmington does. They are by far the best running team, and that's why their running backs are 1 and 2. You're getting 14 yards a carry. If one of them carries on first and one of them carries on second, you're getting 14 yards on those two carries. That's insane. Yeah. And then you bring a third guy in who can get you 10 more, and you keep constantly moving the football. No wonder they dominate teams, and no wonder they dominate time of possession, and no wonder they don't worry about throwing the football much. They have it all cooking in the backfield. Those two are as good as it gets as a 1-2 punch.
No doubt why you have all 5 linemen that were part of the all-region team last year. Oh, by the way, when you put 10 in the box, throw it up to a guy who was an all-state receiver as well. Hint, hint. We'll talk about Freddie Zettner in our next podcast as well. Want to give a shout out to a couple of honorable mentions. First, AJ Farilla for Shenango, a guy who, again, I think is going to take over more of even more of a role than what he did last year. Was the leading ball carrier last year for Shenango. We hope to see that offense just, again, explode a little bit more. It's going to have to. We'll see how it will adjust after Sam Patton, who had a legendary season in his senior year last year. We talked about Edworthy and Mistretta. Jermaine Walker was a impressive freshman running back for Newcastle when he got his time in there. Was really excited to see his progression working behind Kayvon Gardner last year. So we'll see how he progresses now as the likely workhorse back in the backfield. And Nathan Hill, hope to see him fully back. Again, missed all of last year. They were so excited, was Laurel, about having him at that running back position. And frankly, Eric, that's the one that is intriguing to me the most, because Laurel has had, in the last 10 seasons, they have had 10 1,000-yard rushers. They had two times that they had two rushers in the same season over 1,000. Last year, one of the very few times that they don't have a 1,000-yard rusher, and it was a big part because who they intended to be their main ball carrier, got it hurt in the preseason. It happens. They had ended up putting their backup quarterback as the running back, and again, you saw it click, as you alluded to in our previous broadcast, clicked late in the year. If they have Hill coming back, that was basically the only position not coming back from last year to this year, and that's just because he was injured. So if Hill can do what we expect him to do, again, I think it's the Laurel team. It's going to be really fun to watch in all facets.
Yeah, I think so too. We know how physical their defense was last year too. They were great. So that's going to help them on the other side of the ball as well, but it's going to take a lot of pressure off Lucas Santini if Nathan Hill's 100% healthy. And you just wonder too, like how much they had to change so late in the process too. Like, did they have enough time to really get their offense rolling or decide who was going to be the primary ball carriers and all that with when that injury happened in training camp? You hope everybody gets through camp healthy this year, and if he's there, he can push 1,000 yards too, and that Laurel team is going to be a handful if he is 100% healthy.
We are 100% ready to go. Yeah, that's a complete lie just now. Down to 17 days, I believe it is, until we kick off the 2025 football season. That wraps up our countdown again for the top running backs, and there's plenty of them that we're going to be talking about a lot throughout the course of the year. Million, Stratton, Eakin, Miller, and Mitchelltree, and a gluttony of others we expect to be seeing and calling a lot from the running back position. Thanks again to Eric Thomas. Thanks again to Penn Ohio Bottled Water. I'm James Dotson saying stay tuned with more Kickoff Countdown coming your way on the Lawrence County SportsNet, powered by LCAP.